We're live now. We're live now.
All right,
Yep.
gotta get the screen cleared up here. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 29th, 2021 remote public meeting of the City of Gloucester Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the zoning board during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications. Members of the board present, Catherine Schlichty, Michael Nyman, Adria Pratt, Peter Canavo, James Gelati, and myself, Joe
I
Parisi,
can't hear them still.
and we have a quorum.
Why can't I hear them still?
We can hear you.
Let me change your sound settings.
So we have a quorum also with us from the building department, building commissioner Bill Sanborn,
Can you hear them?
building inspector
Yeah.
Greg Cefalo, and Allison Battle, our secretary. So our first order of business will be the approval of the minutes from 7/8/2021. Can we have a motion?
I move approval of the minutes of 7/28.
7/8.
Sorry, 7/8/21.
Mike, it looks like you're still connecting to your audio for some reason. Can somebody
I'll
else second them?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. Roll call vote.
Ms. Schlichty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman, can you hear us?
Yes.
Can't read it, but yes.
Yeah, he said yes.
Approve.
Okay. Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
I was absent 7/8.
okay, and Mr. Parisi?
Yes. So the minutes have been approved. One thing for the record, for the recording, this is Zoom meeting ID 880-3063-8743. And I'm gonna just jump one bit out of order. Is Joel on? Yeah,
I saw him, yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to take up the request for continuance of the Sears on Calder Street. Just to put that out of the way. Joel?
Joel? Maybe he's just showing his picture and he's not there, but he should be able to talk if he's there. Joel?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as this board may recall, Joel Tavaza, Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street, here tonight in this moment on behalf of Cynthia Jane Sears and Milton M. Sears, the trustee owners of 18 Calder Street. Last year came to the ZBA looking for a left side yard variance, a modification of the existing variance, and a special permit for a change in use to go from a single family to a two family. That decision was dated June 25th, 2020, and date stamped by the city clerk on August 12th, 2020. And although there's been a lot of legislation and orders coming out of the House and the governor's office regarding extensions for deadlines, the honest truth is no one's quite sure exactly how they all apply just yet. And out of an abundance of caution, I'm looking for a 1-year extension on this decision so that if this decision is not otherwise salvaged or saved by these emergency orders, this board will have already taken care of that and will give my clients the time they need to get the construction underway.
Thank you. Could we have a motion on that?
We're extending the variances that were granted.
Yeah, for a year and a special permit.
Special permit's still in effect. It's just the variance.
Right, special permit's
Yeah.
2 years, right? Yeah.
3 years now.
Oh, okay.
I move to extend the variance that were granted to Cynthia Jane Sears and Milton Sears for 18 Calder Street for a period of 1 year.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes.
Thank
So the
you.
variance will be extended for a year. You can put that on the record somehow. I don't know if we have to sign it. I think we do.
Yeah, I think Joel shall do a quick
Amend on-
little decision, even if you want to call it that, and we should go through the same process, I think.
Yeah.
And do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're back to our regular schedule here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
do you want to make a announcement about the next meeting? Just so people are on, we'll know we're going to be in person and not online.
not at the next meeting.
I'm
Not
sorry,
for
the September
three
meeting.
meetings, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get that out early so people are aware.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for public
So that we,
record,
maybe that we all
our-
know.
our August meetings are still going to be remote Zoom, but the first meeting in September, we'll be back to in-person at City Hall, back to the way we've always done things, and we'll keep announcing that, and I'm sure it'll be stories in the paper about it, but that's the plan. Moving on to the first order of business, old business, continued hearing. The petition of One Babson Court Realty Trust seeking a variance for front yard, side yard, rear yard, and a special permit to exceed maximum allowable building height to allow demolition of existing 3-story, 3-family structure and construction of a new 3-story structure at One Babson Court. Attorney Visnick, I believe, is representing, and I forwarded I thought to everyone, the changes in the plans. So,
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I'm recusing myself on this application.
yes,
I as well, Mr. Chairman.
correct. So Peter Canavo and Adria Pratt are recused. So the other 4 members will be continuing to hear this case. Attorney Visnick?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just to give you a brief recap, on June 17th, we started a hearing on the request of the petitioner to demolish the existing 3-story, 3-family structure at One Babson Court. It was partially destroyed by a fire on May 13th, 2018. And the petitioner purchased the property after the 2-year deadline to rebuild and wants to keep the current 3-family use and turn the structure into 3 condominium units. There were concerns at that hearing about the visual appearance of the structure, as well as some concerns from those on Hovey Court about views and such. And so there was a site visit on June 26th. I was unable to attend the site visit, but I have seen some photographs, and I would respectfully request permission to share my screen because I think that those pictures are worth 1,000 words and would be helpful to reorient the board and perhaps the public as to what this structure will do.
Yep, go ahead.
Alrighty. Now I have to figure out how to do it.
Mhm.
And I'm not seeing the appropriate button to do so.
You don't see the big green one at the bottom below you? Says share screen.
No, I do not.
All right, I just added, so you should be able to share
Okay.
now. I just
Yep.
fixed it.
Thank you, Allison.
Just so you know, Mr. Chairman, I'm on by phone.
Great.
I am not seeing it. I can describe it to you, but that's the 1,000 words I was trying to avoid. Well,
I don't, what are you trying to share? Is something we have or?
Has he been brought in by as a panelist? That could be the problem.
He was only allowed to talk and now he's off and
All right, that's the problem. He, only panelists can show it, so if I can.
I have
find
it
him
now.
in-
He should be back.
Okay,
You join it. Hold on. He should be. Do you see it now, Bob?
He's muted and he's got his camera off, but so we'll need to put his camera on.
If you can hear us, Bob, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you see it now?
I do.
Okay.
And I am sharing the screen.
There you go.
And as you can see, this is from 4 Hovey Court. You can see the partially rebuilt or the partially built structure here, partially destroyed. And then you can see the board showing what 34.2 feet would look like. And as you can see, there are no beautiful ocean views, none of which would be altered by a structure at that height. And then this is a screenshot looking down on the structure. You see the 4 Hovey property and how far it is from the subject property. And there are the solar panels that were discussed. And you can see the terracing of the 4 Hovey Street property. And then this shows the subject property and the distance from at least that Hovey Street property and the others on Hovey. And this is from the other structure at 9 Babson Court, owned by the applicant. And you can see his structure and the stick demonstrating the height, the solar panels, the terracing, and the structure owned by, I believe, the Vachons. And that's all I need to share unless anybody has any questions about those photos or want me to revisit those.
I have one question, Bob. That stick that shows the height of the building,
Yes,
that's the height of the roof, right? On top of that will be the
I
railings.
believe, and I can let the applicant correct me, I believe that's the total height, including the rail structure, the stainless steel rail structure. But I can stand to be corrected on that.
Can we get confirmation on that?
Well, yes, we can, and as we go,
I think the architect will be able to confirm that as well.
are you going to touch on the changes that were made since? the
Yes,
site?
actually,
Because what we're looking at in the photos was at the site visit.
that's right.
And
Yeah, so if I may briefly, the applicant, took heed of the neighbors who opposed the petition, Ms. Palazzola, Ms. Vachon, Ms. McDonald, and the Serafins. And so the applicants made some changes to the plans, bearing in mind they are constrained to the physical parameters of the lot. So now I would like to introduce the architects, Dan Ricciarelli and Sanir Luftija, to describe the changes they made to the plans. And they just texted me that they are perceiving difficulties in participating. So if you have the ability, if you see them and can let them in to participate, that would be helpful.
If you take your screen down, we can do that.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, stop sharing. Yeah, good.
there we go.
but what name are they under?
I believe it is Dan Ricciarelli.
Nelson, you see them?
Hey, folks, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Okay, bring
Nope,
it. Yeah.
we can hear you.
It just says Dan, I think, on my screen.
He's
Yeah,
muted
he should be able-
himself.
if he unmutes, he should be able to talk.
Hi, folks.
There we go.
We're in. Thank you. I think Sanir Lafia is on too. Can he be invited in from my office?
Not two at once, but
Okay, I can get started. Thanks, Bob. My name is Dan Ricciarelli. I'm with Seeger Architects out of Salem, Mass, 10 Derby Square. As Bob said, there were a couple of points he made, and I just want to reiterate. The massing, as we presented before, has not really changed that much. We did listen to the neighbors. We had a site visit, which I think went very well. And what we did, and I'll let Sanir talk in a few minutes, is we addressed some of the massing at the back of the building. People had concerns that the building looked a little non-traditional. So we're trying to introduce some sloped roofs at the rear elevation. Do you have the plans where you could show them? I think Sanir is able to share
we have
them.
copies. I mean, but
Okay, I can
not
just
to show to the public, I guess.
We wanted to start at A7, and I can just go through some of the
Okay.
changes around the building, and I'll have Sanir give a little more elaboration on that.
But my concern is if these can't be shown to the public, then that's
Yeah,
not
if
in
you-
line with our regulation.
Do you want me
can-
to bring? I'm sorry,
Sanir, please, yes.
Mr.
And he'll
Chair,
share his
you
screen.
bring Samir in?
Yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Okay.
And I'll just keep going. And just so we know that the main building itself, as designed, is going to be 4 inches below zoning. That's the roof of the building and the ridge. The variance is really for the deck itself. We tried to look at lowering the building. It's very constrained as far as height. But we are 8 inches, actually 10 inches below the 35-foot request for variance with the top of the deck. It will be transparent. The rails will be cable rail, which are very thin. There will be a cap rail, and the owner has agreed that there will be condominium documents stating that nobody can put anything opaque on those rails. It will be transparent and left transparent. So we're here at drawing A7, and some of the facade changes were more concerning the side and the rear, but along the front, the owner would like to see like a barrel vaulting. So we're playing with some of the roof forms. Again, the massing has not changed. And just to reiterate, the parking, we have 3 cars in the base, and there are 2 cars on site, and that satisfies zoning. That parking is required to be inside to accommodate the 5 cars required. So next in here, A8. And this is the view on the left elevation. You see we started introducing some gable roofs, but the program being what it is and the building being very constrained with height, I mean, we have some dormers introduced, but we are trying to introduce traditional forms, more slope roofing, but the program does max out the building footprint, and the dormers are required as part of that. A9, same thing on the right-hand elevation. We are introducing some dormers and some gabled roofs towards the rear where of the property, the butters. And then the next slide. And this is the back. We do have the roof deck access with the stairs, and which we've incorporated into the back of the building so as they're not suspended out anymore. And we do have, you can see the sloping roofs with the dormers at the back. And again, the programming is very tight for the top unit, and it was very difficult for us to introduce these changes to the roof and lower those eaves anymore, and we'd be sacrificing quite a bit of program. And we did a lot of shifting of the plan to accommodate what we've done here. So if we can, I think we pretty much hit all those details. We did quickly, going to run through these perspectives just to show you some of the changes in 3D. And this is the view from Babson Court, looking toward the rear. The next one's in here. Again, just some other vantage points showing the decks on the side off the bedrooms. And then some images from the rear. And one of the things we were asked to look at is possible shadow impact, and we did take a look at that. And really, it's just the early winter months in the morning are really the only ones affected. Most of the year, they wouldn't be affected at all, those solar panels. So we did listen to the neighbors. We addressed that concern too. We did take a look at that. So that's about all we have for the changes that we made to the drawings. Sunir, did you have anything to add?
I think you touched on pretty much all the changes we made.
I think we did too. Yep.
Yeah, the shadow study, again, as you said, is January, February, and then November and December. And it's really just early in the morning where we really wouldn't be able to do much to prevent that just because the sun is at such a low angle.
Correct.
Without completely, getting rid of a whole story.
Yes.
But as you can see, the existing building also casts a shadow. These are approximate, but I think they're fairly accurate.
And I think it's important to note that the original building with its roof had cast shadows before in the same scenario. So I don't think we're exacerbating that situation.
Do you have a visual of that, what the existing roof shadows are?
We don't, because the roof is gone and we'd just be approximating. But I think the owner understood, I think at the site meeting, he was talking about that there were shadows cast very early in the morning during the winter from the original building. And I think at this point, we'll just pass over.
Oh, can you verify that?
Yeah, the 2x4 or what they put
Yeah.
up there. Yeah, so that's to the top of the railing.
Oh,
That height.
that is to the top.
Correct.
Of it. Okay.
If that was put at, I wasn't there, but if that was put at 34 feet, 2 inches, that's the top of the railing.
So the height variant or special permit that you're looking for is really so you can have the roof deck.
That's correct.
If you weren't granted it, you could still build this structure.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bob?
No, if I could respond to any questions or any concerns from the neighbors, be glad to do that. I think I would want to reiterate that the roof deck components are virtually transparent, and Mike's willing to write that into the condo doc so no subsequent owners could add anything that would interrupt that. And again, the photos you showed, or I showed you, indicate that any of the neighbors behind aren't going to be really sacrificing any view at all with this structure as it's been presented to you.
Okay, well, the public hearing is still open, so we will take testimony. Are there any questions of the applicant from the board at this moment?
Can you take your screen down, please?
Yep.
Is that me to stop sharing?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so any questions by the board, or we'll take public testimony?
Good for now.
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application? In favor, please raise your hand and be recognized. We have Mike first up. Bring him in.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Mike Bertolino. I'm the applicant.
Address, please.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I need your address.
Oh, 9 Babson Court.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to speak a little bit regarding the property itself. It's burned down in 2017, and it's been a tough time dealing with the previous owner. There was always stuff falling over, getting him to clean up the area. And he gave me the opportunity to buy it, and knowing that I'm the neighbor and can deal with, I'm in construction, I'm an electrician. And so, I bought it, and, me and my father bought it together, and, I'm not, we're not rich. We're trying to improve the neighborhood. And, really, it's in the FEMA zone. It's very tight parking. I know you guys came out here for the visit. But, we had to lift it up. We added that extra parking. And, this is to keep it a 3-family. It is 4 stories, but with the flat roof, that adds the level that used to be the rooftop level. And so, essentially, we're asking for a little bit of relief of the height, but most of we're under for the 30 feet of regular building height. So what we're really asking for is the railing, which will be fully transparent. And I think, it's just something that, I've dealt with next door to me for over 4 years now, of a burned down building with stuff falling all over the place. It's an eyesore in the neighborhood. I'm really just trying to improve the neighborhood. And, I had to get my father to join with me so I could even complete this project. So I appreciate your consideration, but, I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you. David Osborne.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I want to clarify a couple of things.
I'd like you to give your name and address for the record.
David Osborne, 4 Hovey Street. My wife, Christine Vachon, and I own the house that has the solar panels
Yep.
directly behind this proposed building. Just clarify a couple things. It burned down in 2018, not 2017. Not that that's important. I sent in a photo taken on January 1st, 2018, when the old building was there.
Sir, could I interrupt you for a moment?
Sure.
Are you speaking in favor or opposed to the project?
Opposed.
Well, we're taking testimony in favor at this time.
I'm sorry. I had lowered my hand, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? I see none, so now we will go to anyone wishing to speak in opposition, and I'll recognize David Osborne.
Okay, again, I apologize for that. I sent in a photo, which I hope all of you have seen.
I haven't.
That was, you can't hear?
No, we can hear you.
You can hear, okay. It was taken on January 1st, 2018, when the old building was there. And it shows the shadow. The shadow did not reach the solar panels. We don't have any shadow from any of the buildings on our solar panels. We never would have built them there if there was. It did reach the feet of the solar panels. These are ground mounted panels. They're 3 feet above the earth. So if you raise the height of that building by 3 feet or more, clearly there will be shadow, as the architect said, from November through February. So it's an issue. It takes away from our, electricity will cost us more pollution will be generated, and that has an impact on the public good. The second thing is the view. The previous building had a peaked roof, just like the building next door that Mr. Bertolino now owns. This is a much wider building with a flat roof. And as they said, the railing will be 4 feet and several inches above the height limit. So it will affect the view for us and for our neighbors. There's no question about that. I think also, if you approve the roof deck, you'll have other houses, other owners down there asking to put up roof decks and saying, why, if he can, why can't we? Seems to me the solution is very clear, which is don't approve the roof deck. Because if without the deck, they're saying that it will stay below the height limit of 30 feet. That will change the view, but at least it will be below the height limit. Finally, I wanted to point out that if you look at legal language. My wife is an attorney, and she took a look at the legal language in the guidance to applicants that was provided with the application for a variance. It does say that the factor that has given rise to your hardship is unique to your property and is not generally found in other properties throughout your zoning district. That is something that's a requirement. It seems to me that they need this height limit to be exceeded because they want a garage on the ground floor because of flooding. That is not unique to that property. It's all the properties down there along the boulevard have the same problem. Secondly, it says the variance may be granted without substantial, can be granted if there was no substantial harm to the public good. And the variance may be granted without substantially undercutting the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. I think it's pretty clear that there's an impact on the public good if they shadow our solar panels. And I think it's pretty clear that the purpose of the zoning ordinance at 50 feet was to protect the views of everyone behind those. So I think, frankly, it would be illegal to approve a variance that raised the height limit. I appreciate your listening and the care with which you're dealing with this issue. And it was good to meet you folks on the site visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in opposition, I recognize Judy Seraphine.
Hi, yes, this is Nicole Seraphine. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother who's here with me. We were at the original meeting where we,
Address, please.
it's 2 Hovey Street, Gloucester, Mass.
Okay.
We are actually to the, if you're looking from the harbor, we are to the right of 4 Hovey Street, which is where the Vachons live. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of our concerns that I voiced already at the meeting and what we're opposed to. One thing that the person who asked for the variance, you know, their lawyer mentioned that there's no change in the view. But obviously, if you're granting a height variance, there will be a change in the view. We have lived here for a significant amount of time, and you know, the view is what it's always been without any height variances being granted. So we don't want to see you set a precedence for height variances in the neighborhood, obviously, because anyone who lives on Hovey Street on this side of the road, that's 2 Hovey Street, 4 Hovey Street, 6 Hovey Street and up, has made a significant investment in their property in order to have the view that we have. And so if you grant a variance, even for a roof deck, which you'll have no control over once you grant it, then we run the risk of setting a precedence where other people are going to come to the zoning board and they're going to want to build a roof deck on top of their house too, which will ultimately cause even a larger obstruction to the view that we have. The owner purchased that property knowing far well what the height variance on the building was going to be. And in terms of there is no financial impact to the current owner if you do not grant the height variance. They'll still be able to condoize the building and, you know, sell off the units as they see fit, but I don't think the roof deck impacts them financially at all. Most of the people down there don't have roof decks because of the height restrictions. So, and they seem to do just fine condoizing these houses that are on the boulevard and in Babson Court. And I also am opposed to it because I do think that the height of this existing building with a roof deck will impact my neighbors' significant investment that they made in renewable energy, which is their solar panels. And I think that should be taken into serious consideration. And the neighbor did provide a photo to say that it does impact. They've owned those solar panels for several years, so they would be the best ones to know if it would impact their solar panels and, you know, whatever covers their energy cost. And that's a significant investment on their part. And the other thing I'm going to reiterate that I already mentioned, when that building burnt down in 2018, the fire truck could not get down Babson Court in order to address the fire situation. There were flames flying off the building. The neighbors next door were kind enough to allow the fire truck into their yard to fight the fire. If it hadn't been for them, it could have caused even more significant damage to the neighborhood. So I do think that already, without granting any variances, that Babson Court poses a significant fire risk to the neighborhood because the street is not wide enough for a fire truck to get down. And I think you should think long and hard before you're granting variances.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? I see none. We open up to Attorney Visnick for rebuttal.
Yes, very briefly, I think, first of all, vis-a-vis the height issue, I'm sure the board knows that we're seeking a special permit and that the standards are quite different in that regard. And if you, regarding the fire issue, I think those, while that's certainly important to the neighborhood, that's not relevant to the board's consideration this evening as well. If what I would like you to do, though, if you could recall the photos that I showed you at the outset, especially Mr. Osborne and Ms. Vachon's property. It's quite a large property, and it is terraced. And so those solar panels happen to be against the boundary where my client's property is. They could, to increase their efficiency in all seasons, be very easily moved, I would believe. And getting to a point that Ms. Sarfine made, the view I think that is important is the view of the ocean. And that's the view that it doesn't look like from any of the photographs that I have seen will be implicated at all with this project. So not to belabor this any further, that would be my rebuttal.
Thank you. Discussion by the board. Anybody want to go?
Well, I'll go if no one's jumping in there. I certainly think that the property should be rebuilt and put back into service. I'm having a hard time with the height exception because one, it's for a roof deck, which I don't think is essential to the use of the building and to making a 3-unit, 3 units. I know it's a nice feature, but I do think it has adverse impacts on the neighbors. I think that they're, I do think it is going to cause some overshadowing on the neighbors' utilities, which is one of the considerations that we have when granting a height permit. And I think there's still going to be some shadowing because they can build to the 30 feet all the way across. There's going to be some adverse impact without the roof deck. I also think the roof deck, I'm not so convinced that there's going to be a lot of obstruction of views because Hubby Street is so much higher than Babson Court. But I do think there's going to be an adverse impact of the roof deck on the properties on Babson Court. So, I certainly want to see this piece of property rebuilt. I think it's a fine design. I think it's understandable that they want to make the first level a garage and not livable space, given the sea level issues. So I don't really have a problem with the building itself, but I'm not convinced a special permit for a height exception for a roof deck is, I'm really not in favor of that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's
Go ahead.
if it was a special permit for height variance for living space and they needed it to make the project profitable or whatever. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement. It's to grant a special permit just for a roof deck, I believe will set a precedent that we probably don't want to deal with in the future.
Michael, you went on this?
I'm just reading our mandate, that's all. sort of respectfully, not what we like or don't like. So I'm not a huge fan of the roof deck either. I just want to make sure that if we're going to reject the special permit for the height exception, that we really reject it for the right reason, I guess. So I mean, help me. How is the roof deck going to be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood? So I'm just going to read this. So, written determination by the board that such increase in allowable height is consistent with neighborhood character. So, are there no other roof decks? I guess that's what I would ask. Are there no other roof decks sort of in the general neighborhood, and will not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood because of obstruction of views, overshadowing of property, other property impairment utilities? So is it? So are you arguing basically this is totally out of character? Is that what you're arguing?
Well,
Yeah,
one, I
Jim.
think it's out of,
James.
oh, James, go ahead, James.
No, both of you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's out of character. I mean, the neighbor's house does have a small deck, but it's not the whole roof. And, you know, yeah, I am arguing that, Michael.
Okay. Yep.
Let me weigh in. So after visiting the site and all the things, I don't feel there's any view obstruction being created, new view obstruction. We clearly, you know, drew our lines and looked it over. And the thing I liked was that they narrowed it. Originally, it was just going to cover the whole roof, and now it's brought into just the center, and they've introduced the gables on either end, sort of to try to help the situation. I think they've made some real good effort to make some changes there. I mean, one reason there may not be other things in this neighborhood is because FEMA regs are fairly new. We haven't seen too many buildings replaced along there. But if you go down along the boulevard, there are some with decks, maybe not exactly on a flat roof, but up there pretty good. With regard to the shadowing of the solar panels, although we all feel strongly about that, the legislation hasn't caught up, and that our evaluation of the impact on utilities at this point still doesn't include solar panels.
Why do you say that?
Pardon me?
Why would you say?
Bill did some research on it, and
Oh, we did?
yeah, he had told us that, you know, that they don't list solar panels under the utility section at this point. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there, but again, as Michael asked about, you know, what we legally.
We're not doing should, we're doing what's in front of us. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the way they barreled the front and stepped, you know, and it steps back. When you got to see the 3D drawings, I was impressed with those more so than the elevations. The elevations look like a real box, but the 3D drawing captured what the architects have tried to do. I thought it was fairly attractive. You know, we did walk all the way down to the panels, stood in the sun, and I just honestly, you know, as you go up Hovey Street further, it just gets higher and higher until you're all the way on top of Hampton. So they clearly, even if somebody else on the boulevard wanted to do this, those houses in back clearly look out over everything. I mean, people have a right to a view, and view is a factor in a height exception. But I honestly didn't see a view obstruction clear to me at the site visit, and I'm glad we had the site visit. So just my thinking at this point, but I'm entertaining what anyone else thinks. Obviously, this requires 4 votes to grant. I have no issue with any of the variances or, you know, the relocating of this house and doing all that. I think it's going to be a big improvement to the neighborhood. We obviously, nobody wants to see this burnt down building still sitting there. So, you know, what if we said no? I think when people ask what is the effect on the sale obviously all the money that people are gonna pay for those upper condos is on that roof deck. I think it's gonna significantly impact the price that someone would pay. You're gonna move down on the boulevard, down an alley behind other houses. You're gonna want somewhere where you can say, I can look at Gloucester Harbor, if you're gonna pay good money for a unit. So it's all just my thoughts.
Yeah, I stand by my original thing. I just think the adverse impacts of the roof deck don't outweigh the beneficial impact of the roof deck, so.
So if we were to, if we will have to, we'll entertain these things individually. Because what's exactly before us is the variances, which I haven't heard anyone speak, which is a higher standard, but nobody spoke against the variances. I think they make sense. And then the only, the special permit to allow the demolition and reconstruction, and we'll vote on the special permit for the height separately, which, if denied, would limit them to 30 feet. I mean, they could still modify their building and do something, but they wouldn't be able to go over 30 feet. So any other discussion, or do we want to take motions? We can do the variances and the special permit separate. I'm sorry?
Would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please. So we'll need a positive motion on each.
Yeah.
Let's start with the variances.
On the petition of One Babson Court Realty Trust seeking variances for front yard, side yard, rear yard, and rear yard to allow the construction of new three-story structure at One Babson Court. I would move approval of the variances requested.
Motion made.
Yeah, I'll second that. Bob Visnick has his hand up, Joe.
There's no, at this moment, unless he's going to ask for. I don't see his hand up.
Yeah, I'm just seeing his face, that's all.
Yeah. All right, let's get a second.
Did you want to let Bob say something? I'm not sure he can unmute himself.
I will, yeah. So
I've
there's a
seconded
motion
that,
on
Joe.
the floor, but I'll entertain it only if he's asking about any type of withdrawal.
I was going to ask for a continuance, and I've heard some good things this evening, and perhaps we have a very good architect, and maybe we can address some of Ms. Schlitke's concerns and deal somehow with that roof deck and bring this back to you next month.
We will entertain that. We will probably have to go to 8/26. I know 12 is a full calendar.
Yeah, we should make sure, I'll be here. We should just make sure.
The
everybody's gonna be
26th
here.
is no Peter, no Adria, and they're both recused, so
Okay.
as long as us
So
four will be here.
What's that, Catherine?
I'll be here.
Catherine,
Yeah,
do you want to withdraw your motion and make a motion for continuance to August 26th?
Yes, I would like to withdraw my motion. And I would move to continue the hearing on One Babson Court to August 26th.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to continue to August 26th. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo, I'm sorry, Mr. Gigalone, July.
July.
Yes.
Been a long day. Miss Pratt? Bruno, Miss
No.
Slickby? Again.
Yes.
And Mr. Parisi.
Yes. You've heard our decision to continue to August 26th, 2021.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
One more packet I can't throw away. Okay, our next hearing is the petition of Joseph and Julie Gucciardi seeking a special permit under 2.3.1, section 3, to allow the conversion of a one-family to a two-family with changes to the exterior dimensions of the building at 2 Reservoir Road. And they are represented, I believe, by attorney, where's my packet here? Yes, Attorney Megan Breaker. Is she here? Allison is,
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
yes, now we can. Yep.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a computer problem. Okay. Good evening, Megan Breaker, Fine Gardner O'Connor, 96 Middle Street. I represent the applicants Joseph and Julie Gucciardi. They're at 2 Reservoir Road, which is located in the R10 district. They're seeking a special permit to allow for the conversion of their single-family home to a two-family. To give you a little bit of background, Mr. Gucciardi's parents purchased the property in the late 70s, and they currently reside there. They've recently conveyed the property to the applicants in order for them to convert it, hopefully, into a two-family and then move in to one of the units with his parents continuing to reside in the other. This will allow for Mr. Gucciardi's parents to continue to reside in their home for the remainder of their lives as they age, with the applicants being able to care for their needs and assist them in the future as they grow older, and hopefully to prevent them from having to move out. The applicants are seeking to convert to a two-family and to construct an addition which will provide each unit with just over 500 square feet of living space. This is a modest addition for this neighborhood. The house currently is probably one of the smallest homes in the neighborhood, and even with this addition, it will continue to be a very modest home. The house with the addition will continue to conform with all zoning requirements for this district. In regard to the 6 factors, allowing the special permit will contribute to the social and economic and community needs. As I stated in my application, my clients will continue to retain the home they currently live in, and they will rent it out, which will add to Gloucester's housing stock. And it will also have a positive fiscal impact on the community. There are no known traffic or safety issues. The property currently has 2 driveways. We'll be able to fit ample parking for all the residents, nor should there be any impact on that would have adverse impact on utilities or public services. The conversion will be keeping in the character and social structure of the neighborhood and should not negatively affect the environment. As such, granting this relief will not harm the public good or undercut from the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinances, nor will it substantially be more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. And my video is not on, so I apologize. Here I am.
There you go.
I apologize for that. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions by the board? Okay, we'll
Pretty simple. Yeah.
we'll take public testimony then. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application for Reservoir Road? Anyone in opposition? I see none. Oh, wait a minute. No, you don't want to speak in opposition to your own application, Julie. So I won't bring her in. I think she might have just raised her hand by mistake. Seeing none, there'll be no rebuttal. Discussion by the board or move to a motion. It's a straightforward special permit. Standard.
Very straightforward. On the petition of Joseph and Julie Gucciardi seeking special permit 2.3.13 to allow conversion of a one-family to a two-family with changes to the exterior dimensions of the building at 2 Reservoir Road. I would move approval. I think that, you know, it certainly meets all the 6 factors as Attorney Breaker laid out, and I think it's a nice little project, so I'd move approval.
Thank you.
Second, I think it's a nice project too.
So motion made and seconded to grant a special permit to 2 Reservoir Road. Roll call vote.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. I think this is exactly what we're here for, and, to be able to keep people in their homes, add to the housing stock, a very minimal addition. Couldn't find anything wrong with this one. It's very good. So you've heard our decision's favorable. If you would be kind enough to create a draft for us and send it in, we will get a decision out. And Mr. Sanborn, if you would be so kind as to stamp and sign those plans on our behalf.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving
Have a
on.
good night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Next is the petition of Maureen F. Malloy, trustee et al., seeking special permit under 4.1.2 and special permit 2.3.4, section 9, to allow to continue to use their seasonal tent for outdoor dining permanently at 31 Western Avenue. You got to-
Chair, would it be possible to be brought in as a panelist so I can share my screen?
Yes, you should be.
Thank you.
There you go.
So for the record, my name is Joel Favaza. Again, I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street in Gloucester. And I'm going to share my screen so we can get this moving along for everybody. Okie dokie. I'm here tonight on behalf of Maureen P. Malloy, trustee, owner of 31 Western Avenue. I'm here in a more practical sense on behalf of Carlos and Danielle Burdon. They are the proprietors of Yella on the Water, which is the restaurant located at this address. We are here, of course, with the landlord's written permission. The proposed work is to permit the temporary outdoor seating to be converted to permanent outdoor seating. It's pretty straightforward ask, just trying to take what they've been doing for the last 2 years and allow them to keep doing it into the future. The background, as I mentioned, the property is owned by the trustees. However, there's a long-term lease in the restaurant building on the right-hand side of the property. On the left-hand side is a mixed-use building. There's commercial tenants in the lower level, and then several residential units on the upper floors. And we're talking only about the restaurant building on the right-hand side of the lot. But they have background. Back in 2019, this board granted relief, gave a special permit to alter and expand the restaurant building, as well as variances for the front and right yard setback. That was to allow them to replace what was Morning Glory's old deck with the current deck that's on there now. We did not get a new use permit at that time. I believe the expansion of the existing outdoor dining was considered minimal, so that's why we were able to just kind of ride through with the old outdoor dining permit. And as a result of the ZBA relief, Yella was able to renovate the entire building, construct this deck, and open up their restaurant in 2019. Then in 2020, we had to implement pandemic seating, and so they had a tent installed, which they've since purchased, and that was to accommodate social distancing and other pandemic requirements. In 2019, they continued to use the 2019 deck, so you see the deck with the umbrellas on it. So last summer, while seating was restricted, they used the open air space you see toward the front, the tent space, and the deck that you had permitted previously. And then in 2021, as restrictions were lifted, the tent obviously had already gone up under the emergency order prior to June's expiration. And so Yella has regained full use of their indoor dining room, full use of their bar seating, and have maintained the ability to keep serving out in the open air area shown in the front and the tent as well. And there have been no complaints regarding the parking now that Yella is back at full capacity. So the relief we need tonight is 3 different things. One is a special permit to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces, and it is technically a reduction from 39 required spots to 4. If you read the parking ordinance, and I'll get into it in a moment, it's kind of anticipating like you were going to build a TGI Fridays in a shopping plaza and you want to make sure there was, several dozen parking spaces for it, right? It doesn't really fit these sort of situations. We also need a special permit, which is the use permit. Again, this expansion of the outdoor dining is not as minor as it was last time when the deck was enlarged. And so we kind of need this outdoor dining permit renewed and expressly contemplating the idea that the outdoor dining will be both on the deck and out in the open air in tented areas. And then because we got variances in 2019 and we're asking for additional relief, it seems safest to make sure that we amend the variances, although the deck itself, which triggered the variances, is not being touched. It's probably safest to amend those variances to take into consideration the additional outdoor seating that has been proposed. Per usual, I've included full-size sets of the plan. Again, this is a nice little infographic as far as relocation and elimination of a few parking spaces. You see that the handicap accessible space is being shifted down the line, and then there's just 3 other spaces that are being taken out. This is just, again, a photo from, I think, the summer of 2020. And this is an important shot looking out toward the boulevard. And it's important to note that the parking lot across the street here, and I'll get into the importance of that in a moment. And this is just a shot about a night last year showing the inside of the deck. As you can see, it's just sitting on the parking spaces currently. When we get into the standard we apply, we'll go to variances. And so what I've done here is provide the 3 chief standards: literal enforcement creating a hardship relating to soil shape or topography of the structure or land, and making sure relief, if granted, does not harm public good. As you can see, you've already made findings in these regards. You've made findings about the impossibility of creating a compliant building without demolishing the existing one. You've made findings as to, the orientation of the deck and the front property line being off kilter, as well as the peculiar shape of the lot. And you've also made a finding previously that the deck that was permitted per the variances created a safer and more attractive deck that was in keeping with the neighborhood and actually benefited the public good by allowing Danielle and Carlos to make a more productive use of the property. So you've already made those findings, and in all 3 instances, nothing's changed. So I think it'd be easy to make those findings again, because again, the deck, the only thing difference now is the deck exists, whereas last time it was hypothetical. Now you can actually see it, touch it, feel it, and see that it actually does all the things that the board in 2019 presumed it would do. So then we get into the reduction of off-street parking spaces. And so I have the section 411A quoted because it speaks specifically to the intent. And it says the intention of this ordinance is to make sure that uses provide, quote, sufficient off-street parking spaces to meet the needs of persons making use of such structures and land uses. And then I also highlighted the fact that there's an exception to the required number that says businesses do not need to provide off-street parking if they are located within 400 feet of a municipal parking lot facility. And so then you get into, well, how do we get a reduction? You have to find that the lesser number of spaces serves the intent. And again, that intent was to make sure there are sufficient parking spaces to meet the need of the persons using the facility. And so first off, the relief is technically a reduction of 35 spaces because again, this ordinance is picturing a TGI Fridays and a big parking lot. It's actually a loss of only 5 compared to what was there in 2019. So in 2019, there were 5 more spaces in use than there are currently, but all through 2020 and all through 2021, those 5 spaces are gone. And we're asking again to make that permanent. It's also important to remember that Western Avenue and the public parking lot across the street, again, serve the idea that 411C talks about. So, there's public parking around, you don't need your own parking lot. But because Western Ave is a street, and because the public parking lot across the street is actually a public landing, neither qualify as a municipal lot as defined, so we can't rest on those to get us out of required parking spaces. And again, just to highlight the fact that these spaces were eliminated, last season and have remained eliminated until this point, there's been no complaints from the neighbors as to Yella creating too much of a parking concern. There have been no reported complaints from patrons of the restaurant to management saying that, they had a really hard time parking or they weren't able to, get their handicapped, patron parked close to the facility. So this is one of those things that's kind of been battle tested already and has proven to be workable, despite the fact that the ordinance is requiring a large number of spaces that are simply not being provided. And so then we have the special permit for the outdoor seating, and that's section 1.8.3, which is the 6-factor test. We briefly go through those. We are serving the economic, community, and social needs by continuing to provide a popular outdoor dining destination. It continues to provide seasonal employment opportunities. Obviously, the more tables you seat, the more wait staff you need. The more wait staff you need, the more kitchen staff you need to prepare food. For traffic flow and safety, again, this reduction in parking spaces has been in place for 2 seasons now, and it's been incident-free. The only thing that's changing with this proposal is in making this elimination of parking spaces permanent, a new handicap space is being added back. There is a second handicap spot on site closer to the ice cream store that hasn't moved, but this will replace the one that's been covered up by seating to make sure there are 2 fully compliant handicap spots on site. And then as far as adequacy of utilities and other public services, the tent does not obstruct emergency vehicles getting into the lot or getting to either building. And obviously the utilities have been fine for the last 2 years serving the tent in the outdoor area. Neighborhood character and social structure. So we have an existing restaurant with outdoor seating located on the boulevard side of the West End. Important to remember that this board gave relief for permanent outdoor seating to Drift, which is also in the West End in 2020. Tono just got relief back in March of this year. Oak to Ember, which is a new restaurant going into the Cape Ann Brew Pub, they just got renewed relief for outdoor dining this spring as well. And so this is another restaurant, on the boulevard side of the West End that is looking to, align itself with these other nice restaurants that people have really enjoyed having the opportunity to eat outdoors at. As far as qualities of the natural environment, there's a minor improvement because there's a lot of plantings that go into the planters around the open air area, but otherwise it was paved surface and it's remaining impervious. And then for fiscal impact, you have increased tax revenue, meals tax, permitting fees that all go to the city. And there's also some short-term, gain for businesses. There's, obviously they had to purchase this tent, and there's other improvements they would like to make to the tent and the grounds. That's short-term construction jobs and sales. And then there's obviously long-term benefits. This is what was referred to by another restaurateur as creating a critical mass of commercial destinations in downtown Gloucester, where Gloucester is becoming this dining destination. And like some of the restaurants I cited earlier, and others that I didn't have a chance to mention, Yella is one of these restaurants that's come to Gloucester and is really kind of making Gloucester this magnet, which, in the rising tide floating all boats sort of way is beneficial fiscally for its neighbors and its extended neighbors. So again, just to circle back on the relief requested, because I know I've been speaking a lot, we need a special permit to reduce the number of off-street parking from 39 to 4, so that's relief of 35 spaces. We need a use permit for a restaurant with outdoor seating to include both the deck, the open air area, and the tent. I said both and then said 3 things. I heard that too, in case any of you did. And then amend the existing variances, which was a left side yard variance of 7 feet and a right side yard, a front yard, it's typo on my slide. It was a front yard variance of 7 feet and a right side yard variance of 1.5 feet. And that was to allow the deck, which is highlighted in light blue, to be built and now to remain. So of course, I want to end by thanking you all for taking the time to listen. I will kill off the screen share and take any questions anyone might have.
So I have a few questions before we take testimony. So you refer to this as battle tested, but it's only been, the inside dining and the bar has only been open for what, a couple of months?
Yes. Yeah.
And we're doubling the capacity of the restaurant. So I don't call 2 months battle tested with twice as many people able to go there.
Well, it's not really, sorry, go ahead.
My second issue is what did the pandemic allow them to eliminate the handicap parking space? I've read through that whole thing. The city gave people permission to put outdoor dining temporarily, but they certainly didn't say you could take out your handicap parking space. And now you want to move it down the other end where the ramp isn't even at. There to get on the handicap ramp, and I'm very adverse to taking away the handicap's rights to enjoy that restaurant as much as anyone else with less inconvenience. And in your narrative, you mentioned permanently permitting the tent. We can only permit an area for additional outdoor dining. The tent has to be permitted each year with a building permit. We have no authority to permit a tent, permanently permit a tent in zoning. So just to clarify that piece. And then your other handicap spot you mentioned across the way, I didn't see it. It says existing handicap spot. I saw space 101, which belongs to a tenant, I imagine, where you say there's a handicap spot, but I certainly didn't see it. I can see a lot of ways to help them to add outdoor dining. But if there's going to be outdoor dining and all we're going to approve is the square footage of it, there's going to have to be a plan for the safety of the public. We require barriers. We're certainly not going to let that side of the tent be there and somebody can drive into it and kill somebody. So there's going to have to be more to this application than meets the eye, I think.
Sure. So if I can address those points, let me quickly throw the plan back up. So you'll notice to the right of the mixed-use building, there's an existing handicap space that remains. And so the one that was in front of the restaurant building was a second handicap space for the lot, and that's being relocated. As far as the permission, the location at outdoor dining was reviewed by the building department in 2020 and 2021 and signed off on both times. But when we applied for relief is when we were informed that if you're going to apply for relief to permanently seat people out there, you need to replace that spot, which we have provided for in these plans. So it certainly wasn't done without the city being on notice and without receiving permission both years through the proper authorities. And again, now to the degree that presented a problem, it's being rectified by installing that handicap spot on the end of the tent.
Why don't you put them across the parking lot in the corner? I mean, it's disrespectful to locate that.
Joe, can you pull, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Joe,
Yes.
Can you pull up the aerial view of this for us, please?
Sure thing. And so
And if you can zoom in on the one with the red drawing on it.
yeah, let me see if I can do that for you. We have a magnifying glass I can use.
Okay. Where the stripes are against the other building,
Go ahead.
where you have the stripes against the other building,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's no parking for the overhead door. I don't believe that's a handicap parking spot there.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no overhead door that says do not block the door.
Right. Also, when we permitted this, I believe where you're proposing to put handicap parking is where we said you had to use handicap parking because you were blocking this parking spot. I'm moving my mouse, but you can't see it. Where the existing parking lot was handicap parking. Look at this plan. I would agree with the chairman. I think we can make something a lot better and get them something that will work and still provide the handicapped access to the building. Another concern I have with your layout is you really do block access totally to the building. People would have to walk through your outside tables to get to the ramp to enter the building. I think we might be out of turn, but I think it could come up with a better plan that will work with everybody and satisfy the board with a little more effort.
Sure. So I appreciate the input, and I think, I'd like to continue through with the discussion tonight, but at the end, it probably makes sense to continue this out to do a little retooling. I will just say that there's access from the sidewalk directly to the ramp that does not require walking through the seating area to get to the ramp. You can access it directly via the sidewalk. But again, that's totally understandable to brainstorm this a little further. The design that is being requested tonight is being requested because it's the design that's been in place and been approved 2 years running. And tonight, with all due respect, is the first time we've received pushback from any authorities that this is not the preferred design, aside from the requirement to relocate the handicap spot. It was not restore the handicap spot, it was relocate the handicap spot if you're going to keep tables out there. And tonight's guidance is different than what we had received previously.
I can see.
As far as the question of battle testing, it's not fair to say that this is doubling the capacity of the restaurant. The outdoor dining deck, the tent, and the open air area are considerably larger than the interior dining area. I only brought the interior dining area into consideration because, in truth, there was extra capacity left on the table, quote unquote, last year. But this year, it's been up and running full speed. They have been very busy, and they have had, plenty of nights where the restaurant is humming and those seats are full, and it's been, without issue. Last year, the dining room was reduced seating and there was no seating at the bar. I think there are 5 seats at the bar that are open now, and a couple more seats inside the dining, but it's not a doubling because there was limited indoor dining last year. And even if you took away the entirety of the indoor dining, it's a much smaller number than the deck, the tent, and the open air area combined.
Okay, so get us a table count and then we'll decide how many we'll let you have.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions by the board members at this time? Go ahead, Kathy.
No, so what you're looking for, Joel, is just, you're not building a structure or anything, just to say every summer we can use the same area for outdoor seating and having to get it permanent annually. Okay. Well, I just have to say, I actually.
Did he answer you? Oh,
yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
What were you going to say, Catherine?
Well, there has been a lot of outdoor dining going in at a lot of restaurants, and I happen to have been at this restaurant plenty of times when all that capacity is full out there, and it seems to work just fine. So I understand the desire. I think I agree with maybe work a little bit on the design where it's going to be so that there's a little more ease of access for handicapped people into the restaurant from the outdoor dining area. But so that's all. Do you want to continue this too?
Well, we could take some testimony if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we, we'll leave the public hearing open, but let's see if there's anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application. You raise your hand to be recognized. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? I see none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone in opposition? Still see none, so we'll keep the public hearing open. But yeah, I would think you need to continue to work on this a little bit, because the way it looks now, I can't speak for everybody, but the entrance to the restaurant is way down the side of the building. I think you could have more tables out front near the sidewalk where that guy's walking. I'd have no objection to a few more tables out there as long as they left the end of the handicap ramp open. But to put the handicap space and make somebody wheel themselves, got to be 75 feet to go up the ramp and then wheel themselves all the way up that ramp back to where the car is, to me just seems not nice. And then the tent, like I say, it should be moved back, move it back a little, instead of putting the space up far away, drag the tent back and figure out how many tables it's going to, and we could definitely permit an area for outdoor dining in addition to what exists. I have no problem with that. I just, but like I say, to clarify, I believe the tent is a building permit, unless you were gonna build a structure. And it's gonna require safety. 'Cause to be consistent, everyone we've approved, we've required safety. Barriers, plantings, concrete, whatever. And this one has none on the whole side. And I wouldn't want to permit something that somebody could, elderly person hits the wrong pedal and goes right through the dining room. That's what we've been trying to avoid with these, so.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that request. I just want to state that the picture you saw was from last year. There are concrete blocks along the entire side of the tent now for the exact safety reason that you cited. So where there aren't heavy-duty planters, there are concrete blocks. Those are already in place. And at the next meeting, I'll be able to show you pictures of those to confirm that for you.
Yeah, we'll check it out too.
I've heard the suggestions and I appreciate the input. And so I'm happy to request a continuance to the next available meeting so that we can hopefully come back with a retooled proposal that meets the concerns that we've heard tonight.
Sure. Yeah, we've got time. This is for next year. We'll entertain a motion for continuance, 8/26.
I move continuance of the petition for 31 Western Avenue to August 28th, 26th.
Mr. Chairman, just if
Yeah.
I may, I don't know if it matters, but neither myself nor Peter are going to be here on August 26th.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Well, the other four will be, I mean, the trouble with the earlier meeting is we're packed, we've got already 7 hearings, so
This could be quick.
I will defer. Joel, do you want to do September or in person, or do you want to go with 4 on 8/26? I'm not letting you shop.
Okay. Well, then we can go to September.
Okay, so we'll do the continuance to September 9th. Catherine, if you could make that.
All right, I amend my motion to continue the petition of 31 Western Avenue to September 9th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to continue. Roll call vote.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
and Mr. Nyman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay, continue to September 9th. Great. Thank you. Next hearing is the petition of John and Maria Lando seeking a special permit under 2.3.1, number 10, to allow the use of a lodging house at 71 Western Avenue. And I believe, yeah, John's representing himself. Can we bring him in?
Okay,
There we go.
I don't have video, but I don't know why. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
You can present without it.
Oh, wait, I have video. I have a new computer, I'm sorry. There we go.
Okay, name and address for the record, and then we'll tell us what you want to do.
Sure, John Orlando, 71 Western Avenue, Gloucester, Mass. I think on the application, it said 112 Essex Avenue. My son filled that out, but my legal address is 71 Western Avenue. It's where I spend
Yeah.
all of my time.
Yeah, it's all set.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can tell us what you want to do.
Okay, so what I want to do is continue what I've been doing for the past 27 years, and that is operating a bed and breakfast out of my home at 71 Western Avenue. There will be no changes on the outside and no changes on the inside. Just business as usual.
You're going legit, huh?
Well, it's funny. For the last 20 years, I've been asking to be legit, and I have been told that there is no permit for me. There is
Yeah,
no
well-
bed and breakfast permit. And when I read the special permit to allow use of a lodging establishment, it used to be for the use of a boarding house. And I objected to that because I am clearly not a boarding house. But I looked up the meaning of a lodging establishment and it includes bed and breakfast. So I'm very delighted actually to be able to do this tonight.
Great.
So
Any
John, you
questions?
get this licensed annually by the Board of Health. What other licenses? do
Okay,
require?
so I've been to the Board of Health and they've issued me a retail food permit because we don't cook on the property. We just serve a continental breakfast in the morning and that's it. So the Board of Health has already issued me my permit. And I do have to go to the licensing board, and full disclosure, I am now a member of the licensing board. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to get this done as quickly as possible, because I'll be voting on people who might be doing the same thing at some point.
Any other questions by anyone? Okay, we'll see if there's any public testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand.
So Joe, can you
Amy?
still, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna listen, we're gonna take testimony from the public.
Yeah, and I have a letter. Did you receive the letter from Dan Ottenheimer? He's the neighbor 3 doors down. I just received
No,
it today.
we just received that today, so the board has not seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still don't have it in the packet.
Okay, we'll take testimony. We'll bring in Janie to speak, please.
Hi, my name is Jane Brancaleone. I live at 67 Western Avenue. My property abuts Mr. Orlando's property, and we actually share a driveway. We have an easement until we get to the actual open part of the driveway. We have lived here since long before Mr. Orlando took possession of that property, and we have had zero problems in all this time. So he's had great guests there. There's never any big parties over there. It's just what he says it is, and I totally support him.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? I see none, so we'll close the public testimony. No need for rebuttal. Any discussion, or are we ready for a motion by the board?
I'm just curious, what's our standard?
Yeah.
I mean, other than that we like him and his neighbor thinks it's great. What's our standard?
Well, it's a standard special permit, so
okay,
no more detrimental to the neighborhood than what currently exists, you know?
Then it's been doing for the last 25 years. I think his neighbor just told us that, right?
Catherine?
Oh, yes. On the petition of John Marie Orlando seeking a special permit under 2.3.1, number 10, to allow the use of the lodging house at 71 Western Avenue. I move approval of the special permit. I clearly have a long track record, which we can gauge whether it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think it's clear it's not. You provide nice service for people who can come into Gloucester and enjoy our beautiful harbors and all. I would move approval of the permit, special permit.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, roll call vote.
I'm sorry, Miss Lichty,
Yes.
Miss Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes.
And we will.
John, you've heard our decision's favorable. We will draft a decision and get it to you as soon as we can all get to sign it. And Mr. Sanborn, if you would stamp and sign those plans on our behalf, we'd appreciate that. And there'll be instructions when you get it in the mail of what to do with it.
great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
you.
Thank you all.
All right. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Night. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jane.
last hearing of the night is the petition of
Yeah, we will need,
Matthew.
I'm sorry,
sorry?
Mr. Chairman, we will need somebody to write that decision, please.
Yeah. I will take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very
Okay, our
much.
last hearing is the petition of Matthew Rivas and Jennifer Rivas Snyder, trustees seeking a special permit under 2.3.7, section 21. Customary accessory use to allow the addition of guest sleeping quarters, 2 bedrooms, for the accessory pool house, 2nd floor at 6 Island Rock Lane. I believe they're represented by, yeah, Attorney Ellis.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Good evening. Deborah Ellison, Ellison Law Office, 63 Middle Street, Gloucester. The owner and applicant of the property is Matthew Rivas and Jennifer Rivas Snyder, trustees of the 6 Island Rock Lane Realty Trust. Jennifer Snyder is on the call, as well as the architect Jason Gove. The engineer for the project is John Judd, and the property is located at 6 Island Rock Road. If I may share my screen.
yes, please.
So this is the pool house that we're talking about. And as Mr. Chairman said, the applicants are seeking a special permit under 2.3.721 to allow customary accessory use of guest quarters with 2 bedrooms and a full bathroom in the pool house. This is the proposed 2nd floor renovation. There will be no exterior changes to the pool house. There will be 2 bedrooms added as well as the bathroom. Currently, the 2nd floor is an open finished area that has been used for rec purposes. The pool house is an amenity to the pool. It's definitely an accessory to the pool. Every use within this pool house is related to the pool. So there are pool mechanicals, there's a laundry and changing room, there's a home gym area that is in this area labeled pool room. There's a small kitchenette that has a beverage refrigerator with no freezer, a sink, an ice maker, and a dishwasher. And there is a full bathroom for use by people who are using the home gym and using the pool, so that they're not traipsing through the main house.
Yeah, quick question. Full bath is downstairs or upstairs?
There is currently an existing full bath downstairs. They are seeking
Great.
to add a full bath on the 2nd floor with the 2 bedrooms.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
So this is a second home for the family, and it's used for family gatherings year round. The extra guest quarters will allow the entire family to gather. The family has expanded since this property was first built. There are family members with young children, and they'd like an area that gives them some private separate space from the main house for those people to stay when they are all together. As I said, there'll be no change in the footprint of the house to accommodate the new guest quarters. They will be adding a covered portion to the roof. And if you look on this picture, it will be filled in here. There's no need for zoning relief for that, but I just wanted you to know that that is another change that they're making unrelated to the guest quarters. The property is in the R10 zone, which requires 10,000 square feet. This property is 50,000 square feet, so it's 5 times the size of what's required in this area. Both the main house, which is here, and the pool house meet the principal building setbacks. Both buildings comply with all other zoning dimension requirements, and the proposed lot coverage will be 9.8%, where 25% is allowed. Under 2.3.721, you must consider the criteria under 1.8.3, and I'll briefly go through those with you. The social, economic, and community needs will be served because the use is consistent with the predominantly residential neighborhood. There's no change to the outward appearance of the pool house or the existing use of the property. The family currently uses the property, as I said, for family gatherings year-round, and they will continue to use it that way. It will protect The project will serve the applicant's individual social needs by providing overflow guest space and for visiting family and friends. Traffic flow and safety will not be impacted. There's adequate parking on the site. The additional living space will not result in any additional traffic because it'll be the same family members coming to the house. They'll just have more room for everyone. The property is already adequately served by city water and other utilities. It is also consistent with the neighborhood character and social structure. The neighborhood is generally comprised of residential properties. The additional space will be within the existing footprint. It will not add density to the lot. And in your packet, you should have some letters of support from 3 of the closest neighbors. There is a letter of support from 1 Island Rock Road, which is this property, 3 Island Rock Road, and number 8. So you can see all of the surrounding neighbors are in support of this application. The qualities of the natural environment will not be impacted as everything is taking place within the pool house, the existing footprint. Potential fiscal impact will be positive. It will likely increase the value of the property slightly and add to real estate taxes. There's always been a question, as you know, as to whether to allow living quarters in an accessory structure, and that's been an issue that's been before the board for many years. Originally, it was addressed by prohibiting water and sewer completely in accessory structures. And later on, that was changed to allow some water, but limited kitchen and bathroom facilities. And the main reason was really an enforcement mechanism and to avoid having 2 principal residential uses on one lot. Now we have a new ordinance that is going to allow accessory dwelling units on the same lot as a principal building, and in many instances as of right. And I don't mean to suggest that this is an ADU because it's not. It doesn't meet those qualifications, but it falls within the spirit of being more flexible with what people can do with their homes. And so I would suggest that there should be a balancing of ensuring that it does not become a second principal dwelling and allowing reasonable and customary uses on a case-by-case basis. This property is truly an accessory structure. This is the main house, and you can see the pool house. The uses that are in the pool house, if it were to ever be used as an apartment, would completely obliterate any ability of the main house to use that area. There'd be no privacy for either the tenant or the owner of the main house. Also, the outdoor living space is, would not be very private at all. So it really is this sort of structure that the intent is to use it for accommodating family and friends that come to visit at the beach. And it's highly unlikely that it would ever become an illegal apartment. But the lot itself is 50,000 square feet. There is a potential that it could be subdivided, and then it would be a principal dwelling. Now, the property owners have no desire to do that. It's not what they want for the house. It's not anything that they would, no way that they would ever use it. And I would suggest that if that were to be done, it would actually be more detrimental to the neighborhood, because it would be a situation where now you have a fully permitted dwelling. And so you're adding all of the additional activity, noise, parking, et cetera, if anyone ever wanted to do that. If you grant the special permit, there'll be a decision that's recorded that states that this is an accessory structure, that it can't be used as a separate dwelling unit, and it will limit that use to one family. So I would suggest less of an imposition to the neighborhood. And I would request that you grant the special permit, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
When was this pool house built? Do we know?
I believe it was sometime around 2011.
So how did it get built with this bathroom and everything without?
That was just prior to the appeal on Rocky Neck that created the bathrooms. That appeal came shortly after that.
I'm not quite understanding what you're saying, Bill. I heard your words, but I didn't know what they meant.
Okay, so on the reason that accessory buildings with bathrooms come before the board is because, I don't remember the date, but there was an appeal on Rocky Neck. A lady was attempting to put a bathroom in her garage. So she was changing her garage into a gym, and it was appealed by somebody on Rocky Neck. And at that time, the board felt that it fell under customary accessory structures and needed to have a special permit through the Board of Appeals. So since that time, anything with that, anything type of bathroom or anything would be coming to the board. This was just prior to them.
Yeah, because I lost track how long I've been on the board. I was definitely on the board at that point. I think I've been on for about 12 years. That we clearly would not have permitted this structure at that point. I mean, it's not a criticism of you or anybody else who permitted. That was within your purview at that time. But I was just surprised when I saw this building, because I just thought, especially 10 years ago, it would have been an automatic no for a bathroom and stuff like that in a building like that.
When this building was proposed to be built, there was a large discussion and a lot of meetings on getting this building built and a lot of legal opinions as to whether or not it met the ordinance at the time.
Sure.
A lot of discussion was made on it. And the second floor was to be left as one open space at that time.
So that's the existing decision then?
Yep.
Okay.
That wasn't a decision, that was a building permit, just to be
Yeah,
clear.
no,
on
that didn't come before us. Yeah, that didn't come before us.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the request before us, but I don't see how this is an accessory dwelling unit when you have two bathrooms, 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. I mean, it's definitely a dwelling unit. So I'm not comfortable calling it an accessory. I'm not comfortable calling it an accessory building with, bedrooms and whatever, but I don't understand why you just don't go for the special permit for accessory dwelling unit. You don't have to. I mean, there's a language in that ordinance that says the zoning board can still grant a special permit even if you don't meet all the requirements as laid out in the accessory dwelling unit ordinance.
Well, we wouldn't meet the size qualification. So.
But again, it gives the zoning board authority to grant accessory dwelling units, even if you don't meet the requirements, as long as it kind of fits the intent to make a second dwelling that's owned by the residences. I guess my only concern is that it can be divided down the line, and now you have 2 buildings on one lot. You could subdivide them because there's enough land there, because there's enough setback. So, I mean, I personally would rather, you don't think we would have the authority to grant an accessory dwelling unit special permit?
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Address Attorney Slichty. If the property was divided, it would need to meet all requirements because it wouldn't fall under the 315, which allowed a property to be divided with 2 principal buildings. It still would need to meet all the requirements to be a complying lot before it could be cut off. So in that matter, it could be cut off now and turned into a separate dwelling, or it can remain part of the main estate and be an accessory dwelling with restrictions saying that it can never be rented, it can't be used as principal dwelling. The board can put whatever restrictions it would feel necessary to keep it as an accessory building. I'm just adding that for.
Right, and then they would have to come back if they wanted to change that. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just concerned about us granting, permits for an accessory use that's actually a dwelling. Now, on what grounds do we tell other people they can't put in bathrooms, kitchens, and bedrooms in their accessory buildings?
Which we tell them all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I mean, I feel more comfortable granting an accessory dwelling unit. You can rent them out, you just can't rent them out for any shorter period than 30 days.
Aren't they family limited though? Are they?
No, it's not limited.
Thought it was in-law.
It has to be your residence, but it doesn't say it has to be your primary residence. It says that it does have the 900 square foot limitation, but again, it says.
I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, we actually got that out to you. I'll have Greg check that this week. I'll have Greg check it this week and get that out to every member. So, sorry about that. Greg?
Is that in effect now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and it says the zoning board of appeals may grant a special permit for an ADU that does not meet the above requirements, provided the board finds that the proposed ADU meets the purposes of section 5.24 and will not have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. So, you know, and the purposes are to create opportunity for addressing accessory dwelling units in residential neighborhoods, increase diverse housing options while respecting the residential character of Gloucester neighborhoods, add rental units to Gloucester's housing, even though they're not renting it, they could rent it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Catherine. Absolutely.
You know, encourage a more economic and efficient use of the city's housing supply and provide homeowners with the means of obtaining rental income to defray housing costs. So I don't think that this project doesn't meet those purposes. I think it does meet those purposes. It does limit you. I mean, it specifically says you have to retain it in one ownership. You can't further, you know, subdivide the lots. You can't condo it. You have to keep the two buildings, you know, in a single owner. I mean, I would just feel more comfortable doing that than calling this an accessory.
Okay, well, before we decide the case, let's take public testimony in case someone has some other issue that we might be wanting to consider. So I would ask if anyone in the public, we'll open the public hearing, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, if you'd raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? I see none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? I see none, so no need for rebuttal.
If I-
Interesting.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Yes.
just address some of Member Schlichty's comments.
Yes, please.
One of the concerns I think that the neighborhood might have is that with the ADU, it would be a much more flexible and expanded use, as you said. And the kitchen that is in this building is really just a kitchenette. It doesn't have a stove. It doesn't have any cooking facilities or anything like that. So it's not a full kitchen. I do see where you're coming from. And I guess the concern that we had was whether such a large dwelling or such a large building would be approved under the ADU. So like to hear if there are any other concerns with the rest of the board, but perhaps continue this with exploration of that mechanism.
I think your approach you've taken gives us just as much safety or what we're looking for. I mean, to prove it as an accessory unit, accessory structure, and allowing the bedroom. And that way, if it did ever want to be divided, whatever, it would have to come back for the whole gamut. I don't think the first one we want to dump onto ADU sort of runs against the intent. I mean, when they wrote that ordinance, they put a lot of time into and coming up with a square foot number and all that. I'm not sure the first one we want to do is to deviate from the intent of the zoning ordinance that much. I'd rather see us go forward with what you're proposing personally, but.
Yeah,
I think
Mr.
my
Chairman,
only-
oh, sorry.
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I think I see your point, Catherine. I certainly do, and I understand the concern, but I do think I agree with Joe on this. I think we get the protection that we're looking for with the way the application is presented to us now. And as Joe said, if they wanted to make any changes, they'd have to come back before us. I think, doing it as an ADU, it seems like they can kind of do whatever and make, I don't know. I think the protections would be sufficient the way that the application is presented. So.
Yeah, I'd like to see the conditions like were proposed.
Right.
Not to, only to family members, not rented per, all our normal conditions, I think give us the better safety.
Right, I agree.
So anyway, so I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here. I'd like to see us move forward if we could. Anyone else want to comment or have a different opinion?
I
Mr.
think for
Chairman,
me,
Yes, Peter.
go right ahead, Peter.
sorry, Mike. So I'm just to get clarity. So would it make sense to subdivide this lot and kind of go that direction? Was that something what Catherine was suggesting in some way or another, or which part am I not understanding? Because
No,
it's
no, we're not wanting to subdivide this ever.
no, right,
We
right.
want, either way would protect it as not that happening, but I think the way it's applied for, I think gives us more ability to condition it and
Okay.
you know, this way they're gonna have to use it with the family. They can't rent it out to different other things. It can't become an Airbnb. You know, it protects the neighborhood a little better. So
No, I agree.
yeah,
I just didn't know if it's a 50,000 square foot lot, and I thought maybe okay.
Would that condition be acceptable, that the buildings have to remain in common ownership?
yeah, definitely. Without any coming back for a completely different application to do something, you know, for a subdivision or something, but
May I ask, right, just ask a question. If they,
Sure.
if someone in the future, this family obviously doesn't want to do that, but if someone in the future created two A&R lots, which wouldn't be required to come back before this board, is that something that you would preclude or not? I'm trying to just get clarification on where the board is going on that.
well, I think that we would not want to see an A&R create two dwelling units from an accessory, by granting an accessory use. That goes against what we're trying to accomplish, because then our other option would be to say no, so.
But wouldn't that be a completely separate path? Where,
Well, see, the ADU wouldn't allow you to do that. The ADU says it has to stay in common ownership, right? But this, if we just grant the changes to this and continue to call it accessory building, even though it has kitchens and bedrooms and bathrooms, you could do an A&R, and there is no relief required by this board to do that. You could just go to the planning board, show you have your square footage and your frontage, and you can do it without any relief from any board.
Even if it's conditioned?
Yeah,
You
but
have to put a condition in this saying it
Bill?
has to remain.
I believe if it's conditioned that it maintains the same owners, that if you did the A&R, they may be able to do the A&R, but they wouldn't be able to transfer it because it would have to stay on the same owners without coming back to the board. That would have been a condition of that property to start out with. And it also would have to stay an accessory building, which would be a zoning violation. So I believe if they were to A&R at some point, they would need to come back to this board to correct the special permit that's out on it, that would be issued on it.
Right, so wouldn't they have to come back for a change in use? They'd have to make it a principal dwelling at that point, and that's not what it is. So
Right.
they'd have to come back to us regardless.
I would believe they'd have to come back if they did that, yes.
What did you say,
I
Catherine?
would rather have that condition to say it has to remain in common ownership and no subdivision of the lot without further relief.
Okay, so how do we gotta get there?
could I have one moment to call my client? Oh, she's
Go
gotten
ahead.
back to my text.
Because even though it's a kitchenette, under our definition of dwelling, this building, as contemplated, will meet the definition of a dwelling.
Well, there's no stove, right?
Pardon me?
There is no stove. But my client says that it would be fine to have the condition that it stay an accessory building and that it be in common ownership. It's, you know, that's not their intention.
That's after we're all dead anyway, so.
Speak for yourself. I got
When
some
the
years
kids-
left.
When the kids want to sell it off. Yeah, you're a young guy. All righty, so I think we can condition it enough and go ahead as it's written. If Catherine, if you agree and think you can word that.
Does Michael have input? Because he's been cut
Oh.
off twice.
I have been shut up a number of times, haven't I? No, I
Very
think for
sorry.
me, it's always, I think the only concern I have, but I recognize that we're a zoning board, that we're looking at individual lots and individual situations. This building's already there, already has a bathroom downstairs. It's directly connected to a pool, you know, which would be different than some other application that comes to us. That's asking for bathrooms or a bedroom or a kitchenette or, you know, whatever. So my concern always is that I want to be fair to everybody, that as soon as I start making certain kinds of decisions it just, in my mind, it just starts, or maybe it's my conscience, not even my mind, it's in my conscience that, you know, sort of what's the imperative here when I'm looking at other situations that are similar. That's all. And this is something that I've been on this board 12 years, you know. This is not common for us to be allowing bedrooms, you know, and a bathroom along with a kitchenette. Although we did one over in Magnolia, allowed a 3 or 4 car garage with bathroom and living space. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but we did it because it was in the middle of whatever it was, 30 or 40 acres. I don't remember what it was. And obviously they had no interest in renting it. It was for their own personal use. So anyway, that's my concern. Not even so much with this. These people have no interest in renting this property. I understand that. Does it impact me in my decisions, you know, coming up? That's all. When people are asking for similar kinds of things.
Okay. Catherine, you ready?
Yeah. On the petition of Matthew Rivas and Jennifer Rivas Snyder, trustees, seeking a special permit 2.3.721, customary accessory use to allow the addition of guest sleeping quarters to the accessory pool house on the second floor at 6 Island Rock Lane. I would move approval of this special permit with the condition that that accessory building not be rented and remain for family use, and that the 2 buildings remain in a single ownership or common ownership.
Okay, is that got everything we usually say?
But add something about no further kitchen, like the kitchenette is like no stove. Can we say they can't subdivide, or you just say keep it in common ownership?
I think the common ownership is going to cover that because they would have, it's an accessory approved, it would have to come back even if they attempted that down the road years from now. So I think we're good there, but yeah, if you want to say no expansion of the kitchens, or however you want to add that wording in, if it makes it feel better. Catherine, you can add
No
that.
expansion of the building or the existing kitchen facilities.
Okay, motion made
Yeah, I can second all that.
and seconded. Roll call vote.
Mr. Pratt,
Yes, I would vote in favor.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes, reservations, but yes.
Mr. Caravo,
Yes, including restrictions.
Ms. Slickby,
Yes.
that wasn't easy. Mr. Parisi,
I vote yes also. I believe it. We've conditioned this enough to make it protect the intent of the ordinance. You've heard our decisions favorable. Mr. Sanborn, if you'd stamp and sign those plans for us. And if we could get a draft, that would be helpful to us.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion
Have a
by
good
the
night, Deb.
board. Has everybody been down? Everything's signed now. I think we're pretty well caught up. Allison, can you talk?
Do we have to
Hi.
say? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are 3 that are ready to be signed. Right
Did
now.
the one
Everything's
Joel, did Joel's one with the wrong date on it get fixed?
Yeah.
Okay.
good. Both of his.
And the
Yeah, a few
packets,
other-
the packets ready that were advertised today or not yet?
Yep, the packets are ready to be picked up as well.
Okay, great.
I'll be down early next week. Yep.
All right.
All right, anything else anyone has? Like you say, we've got 2 more Zoomers and
I
then,
have one thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest to the board if it's okay and see if the board be willing. We're trying to get more accurate. Me and Greg spend a lot of time now on the packets to go over them, try to get them more accurate, try to catch mistakes before they get to the board. I know a little while ago it was getting sloppy. But one thing I've noticed in a recent deposition I did, the decisions are not always written clear. And I understand how we do it, and I'm not suggesting we change anything, but I am suggesting that one person on the board review each and every decision to assure accuracy that's in them. And sometimes it's just content that's not come across the same as what the board intended it to be. And I'm not sure everybody's reading them carefully enough to catch that. And I was just wondering if it would be worth it to have one board member who would be responsible to read them for content to make sure that it's what was believed to be at the board. Just a suggestion.
Is there not, when you say that, is there not enough like reasoning for our decisions, or what specifically?
No, I think it's more of whoever's writing it, and it's to what was said at the meeting and what was supposed to be in the meeting into it is not coming across the same as the minutes were. So if you read the minutes, in the case that I was being deposed on, the minutes said the opposite of what the decision said in a couple of spots. So there's confusion, what it was really meant. And we do see this quite a bit. And maybe someone has a better idea, but if one person's in charge of reading each decision to assure that decision, at least in their opinion, that decision reads right. And if not, they could raise the question with the board to ask that question so we get the decision more accurate put out. That's what I'm trying to get at.
so the thing I see is, so the decision being written, the minutes come later. So when you're writing the decision, you don't have those.
Right.
You have no idea what's going to get written down in the minutes. And I think we don't spend enough time on the minutes to see that they're accurate and what we want. If you read 40A, the requirements for the minutes are much more stringent than we do. It clearly states that the minutes will clearly state what was decided, what was said and all that. And we don't get that at all.
Right.
So we're writing the decision based on notes and memory, and somewhat with the Zoom, we've been able to watch I've been just going back and watching the video when I'm not sure, but we're not going to have that forever. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you sign that in the bylaws. It's the chairman's responsibility, but I do read them all before I say they're okay to go to signature, but I'm no lawyer. So, but I'm reading it from a perspective. Is that what I thought we agreed? And sometimes the ones that are written by the outside attorneys, sometimes I kind of say, wait a minute, that's not really what we said, you know?
We've had that problem a few times where they were ad-libbed into the decisions.
Well, maybe if everyone could take when we send them around, everyone take a closer look. We've got a couple of attorneys and we all have memories of what went on. Maybe that would let's all take a little extra time to read them. There's no rush to sign these things, you know? We're always getting.
I will point out the one that I was referring to was written by an outside attorney.
Yeah.
And the comments, the two things that stood out in it really hurt her more than it did the person who was appealing.
Yeah.
So that was
I think what's going to help is when we finally go back to the regular meeting, because if I can think back when I did that with you guys for like 2-3 times, it was easier to remember the last case, because sometimes they don't sign off on these till a month later. And so we're trying to think back rather than, we're always at the meeting, okay, yeah, this was just last meeting. We can, we have a fresher memory. I think that'll help for sure, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we don't really reference back to something. It's 2-3 months, sometimes it's quite a while later. But we just need to, don't let anyone push you into having to sign these things until they've been reviewed. I mean, we have a lot of days, 90 days in some cases. So everybody take a chance to just read them. And if you find anything that doesn't sound right, it's okay. We kick it back, we make them fix it.
Usually my last name, but it's gotten
Usually
better.
it's that, yeah. A lot of the templates are wrong. Yeah.
If I say it right or not, but I'm continuing the way I say it.
All righty, anybody, anything else we want to discuss?
No,
I'll
move to
entertain a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn if somebody wants to make one.
Second.
You guys are ready for
We
bed.
got one already and I seconded it.
I know it, I heard you.
All right.
Roll call.
We have Miss Slichty,
Yes.
Miss Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes, we are adjourned.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks,
See you in a
guys.
Nice
couple
to see you
weeks.
all. Take care.
Hey, Greg, can you go back and check? You there? You're there? Can you go
Yeah.
back and check online and see all the new, anything that's at the end of the ordinance is new?
Yeah,
Let's make sure they got all of that, because it just dawned on me, I don't think we sent them out anything.
okay.
And then each member will have the updated version, the updates that are at the back of the ordinance.
No
All right.
problem. Yeah.
Excellent. We
All
miss
right.
you tonight, Allison.
Everything that is said.
Huh?
Minutes should not be everything that is said. He's wrong.
Well, no, if you go, he's not, he is and he isn't. If you do read it, there is an exception. He is right, and I forgot about it. I think if you read 48, you're supposed to say who was there and whether they're opposed or not opposed, the things like that. Not their word for word stuff, though.
Right. Everything that's said, though, is what he said. So I'm supposed to
Yeah.
write what? Who
I believe
well, no one ever-
we should check it and see what they say, because I believe you have to list everybody who spoke at the meeting and just whether or not they're for or against it. I don't believe you have to say what they say. So good.
Yeah, baby.
Greg
It's
did
all
his
right there.
job.
Joanna
all
always
right
says
there.
what is done and not what is said. But I do say everyone that has spoken, and I do if they all vote in favor, so I don't usually have to
Yeah, I
do
don't,
otherwise. But if they do otherwise, then I state it.
yeah,
So that's
So-
all being done automatically.
it may be, but that's, he also needed to come back. I told you I was scared to ask him that.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I was waiting for Adria to pop up and say, well, I'll do that, but she didn't. She told me she would, but.
I just
didn't wanna-
stated like nobody has a complaint about them until something's said, and then it's like, oh, well, it's the minutes fault. It's like, dude, if you have a complaint, say it in the beginning when I'm
Well,
doing
that's what I was trying to get across, and nobody does say anything about it until something either comes up during the construction process, but it's usually 5-10 years down the road when some lawyer's reading it for a refinance and saying, well, this ain't what it says. Yeah, but we knew that's what they meant, and that's, and we're on two sides of the table. It was like it was Meredith down there for that Western Ave appeal.
Right.
I forget exactly what it was, but I'm reading it saying, yeah, that ain't what she said at all. And Mike knew it wasn't what she said.
Yeah.
She's sitting there, what's she gonna do? She can't say anything about it.
We got to read better.
Yeah, so it's, it just was the opposite of what should have been written. Everybody does it. It's not, everybody hears things different, everybody writes things different. Somebody just
Right.
needs to look at it and make sure. And I was hoping Adria would pop up and say, being the clerk, I'll read each one. And that way, at least it's an attorney reading it. So it's a trained eye reading it. And we'll catch the problems that are sticking out, hopefully.
it would make sense. because
Each board member gets a meeting. Each board member gets a meeting and they read those minutes or the decisions for that meeting and just rotate them.
Yeah, that's up to the chair to do it. So, when he says, well, that's the chair's responsibility, when it's the chair's responsibility, it's only the chair's responsibility to make sure it gets done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but anyways, it was good. It was a good meeting. They're done. What is it, 4/9? Ooh, it's after 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
9:08 was the official.
I'll take it. I'll take it because next time's gonna be 11.
yeah, that's true. All right, guys, and we'll be, well, not the next one, we're not, but. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right.
Enjoy
I'll
the
talk.
weekend. All right, talk to you. Bye.